Ladies and gentlemen, this is my good friend Justin White, Dos Leones, lead singer. My goodness, it's just so interesting to watch friends from afar. You know, I've actually we met after high school. We went to different high schools in Laredo. Shout out to Laredo, and
Hey,
we had a mutual friend, Angel, right? And I remember thinking, you know, we were both our first friends in high school in football. We shared, we were locker roommates, not roommates, neighbors, right? My locker was above here. His was here. He just came in from Chicago, and you know, we formed a bond. He's a good friend, and then when you told me that you know him, because I remember he was moving a lot because his family's not from here, right? So I guess it's more common that they would move. I don't know too much about that, but I remember that's how I recognized, like, oh, here's, if I felt that you felt the same connection that I had with a friend. And so it's like I felt like I knew you too. And it was
right.
interesting to see how much, you know, we both share we play in a scene within music in Laredo. I was sharing the stage with you with Santo Vicio, and man, you guys were rocking the stage. So I was like, man, I like your vibe, man. You write your songs and you're singing your songs, and that's so. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Justin White, that's how we've met, and we've sustained communications. How you doing? You know, since. So I was really
Mhm.
excited to every time we talk. By the way, we go into a deep trains of thought and thought explorations. So I figured, well, let's hang out, right?
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, I missed you, man. It's cool because like it's like little nudges here and there of like, hey, like you saw that too, or we kind of like on social media or whatever. But it's always good to like really see your face, like to actually see your expressions and stuff like that. The human experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I appreciate you, doing this and kind of
You know, I've
following
been
up. I
talking a
know you.
lot about it, yeah, and you certainly been a big nudger yourself, and yeah, let's essentially, instead of keeping, you know how a lot of, I think the reason why there is a need to, how do I say this? Social media, there's a lot of text, there's a lot of, here's another headline, here's another headline, here's another, oh, here's another wave of, you know, thoughts that are just smacking us, right? And fair thoughts and good thoughts and justifiable thoughts and all good, but at the same time it's like, well, hold on, I don't know what's going on here. You know, I don't want to sign up for anything that I don't know about, but how could you not support something? I'm like, well, of course, no one's saying anything, no one's saying anything. I'm just trying to figure myself out. You know, and I know you share that, and I think that's it's fun to, well, just recognize that amongst each other, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Um,
So yes, I'm happy. I'm curious, man, Justin, these days, how's it going? How's the boy?
the boy's great. It's called music wise. I'm building a shed in the back, but it's more like a room. I'm gonna run electricity through there and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm gonna pretty much move all these musical instruments into that room so I can have more space. It's like a bigger room, and
Yeah. How do you
yeah, I
think
kind of
that's
want to
going to
make it.
affect your receiving of ideas?
Well, I'm secretly making the whole backyard a vibe.
Yeah.
So if when it comes to like
Uh-oh.
songwriting,
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
right. When it comes to like songwriting and stuff like that, like I'm going to be able to be outside. Kind of it's the closest thing to Mother Nature in the whole lot of my house or whatever.
Mm,
So I'll be able to be outside and kind of relax and kind of clear my thoughts because sometimes when you're just in a room full of noise, it's hard to like think. And it's great to go outside and kind of like clear your mind and stuff.
I like what you said
But
about there. Could you say a little bit more about hear your thoughts? Like, what do you mean about that?
Well, like your thoughts as in like what you did to me that day when you told me like which you were inspired by a book, I think, about how a surgeon doesn't say, I don't feel good today. I'm not going to do that.
Hmm.
It
I
really
even
hit
have it
me
written
like,
here.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
wow,
because it hit me that much.
it's
Just
so good.
for those who may not be familiar with, or like, okay, what book are you talking about? The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield is such a great book. I don't know how long it's been out. It's been out for a while, especially for any creatives, uh, anyone that especially endeavors within the realms of art. Uh, some of the bullet points that I've translated into my own words is three takeaways: is essentially recognizing that you are professional, you don't get blocks of ideas, and you are a receiver of ideas. So to me, how that was translated into like a surgeon, I don't know where I heard this. I'd like to give credit to the specific source where I heard it, but it just kind of stuck to me. Uh, you don't just have blocks of ideas, especially you could witness that in surgeons, right? Oh, I have a block of doing surgery right now, but you're opening up my brain right now, and you're already there, so you gotta like, no, I can't because I got a block. I need to take a break. I need to, do my escape, but you're leaving this out hanging. Of course, with bus drivers, you're so focused on the bus. You're hauling how many people, how many tons of steel, how much momentum is traveling through the city. Oh, I lost my way I got a block in bus driving block. I don't know. So this is in reference to writer's block. Oh, I got a block of a thought, so I guess I'm done. Instead, that's where the muscle is found, right? It's like, oh, okay. But I've experienced flows. Well, we can all run, but at the same time, we can extend ourselves to the point of fatigue. And that's where it's like, oh, we're growing here. Shout out to Orange Theory, right? Yeah. That's where I would say I found that thought also at the gym. So it's interesting that you bring that up yourself. So observing your thought, right?
Right. So yeah, and that's exactly, you said the word there, man. Flow. Like it's I was when you clear your mind, you kind of like, well, in a way, you kind of go with the flow, and you kind of let your mind, how do you say, like take control, and then you just follow, and it's just like a surgeon who studied this, and how do you say, pretty much has done this before. It just kind of goes with the flow, like you don't say like, oh, I don't know what to do now, and or whatever. And
I mean, look at the military, right? Why is there so much training, right? So
right,
they are hauled into a whole other land, into a whole other set of culture and experience, the likes that is totally from, like, say, if, for me in particular, if I were to go out and have served, shout out to our veterans, right? It's like, dude, I can't
100%.
even, like, I have family who have served, I have friends who are serving and have served. So it's like, I can't imagine that being taken out of my bubble here that I was just born through, that we call, we just call it, oh, it's high school. You know, what high school did you go to, right? It's like all that. And there's actual meaning in it. But at the same time, it's a facade, right? It's a beautiful facade. It's a guidance facade, not to diminish it, not to use the word facade as a negative, but as a reference. Because I mean, look at, like, if anyone were to close their eyes, you can actually see the road going to the grocery store. You can see the road, say going to work, whatever it is, or visiting a friend or visiting family. You can imagine the highways, right? Where is that? It's abstract, right? Where am I going with that? I don't know, but maybe can you help me with that? Runaway train of
I know
thought. Let's see.
yeah, I know what you're saying. Like we have our bubble, where
Oh, military.
like
There it is.
right, because we have control and we already can see the future of like, or we can see the safe path of where we're heading. But
Hmm.
well, yeah, when you go to the
But when you're
military,
taken
it's
out, you're like over there, you're experiencing this whole other realm that feels like, oh, it's just like the way it is over here, but it's absolutely
right,
not. And but the only thing that can ground in terms of flow is all that. There it is. There it is. There's a flow of thought there that kind of lost, but it came back. Uh, that is it's so conditioned that when it's taken out of and thrown into all kinds of elements, it sustains, right? It's an anchor, an abstract anchor from within. And that's just from the mind. So imagine like the elements of the earth and the elements of well, being under fire. I could only imagine, right? So sustaining that flow of where things need to go.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, yeah. So state of flow, man. That's great. That's so que sigue los flows shall they continue to be found, and take pictures, brother. We want to see. We want to see, man. Of course, in the down low, in the down low.
Right. Yeah.
That's good, man. And I heard you mentioned that you've been writing also. What's that? What's that like?
Writing, it comes with exactly. I don't know, man. Like that day that you told me that, it's just way more inspirational. Like where I was just like, whoa, like I didn't realize that I was just putting so much pressure on myself in the way of like trying to be the best, but not realizing that also getting rid of your worst, like writing was also part of the process, so just
It's
write
like a
it
little
down.
abstract focal point cataloging. It's like little. You said it best last time. They're like stones, or what would you call them?
Oh, right. They're stones that pave the way or something like
Okay,
that.
so yeah,
Uh, Stepping stones, right?
stepping stones, so that serve as a marker of reference and
Right.
offer more information than if it weren't marked. And because now there's a library, there's a richness in well, whatever was sown at the time, and you could look at it. And that came to me, specifically when I was a freshman at Texas State at San Marcos, and I was just asking questions every time I came in as a jazz studies. I'm like, after a while, recognizing all these waves of momentums from different people, friends, and people just looking from afar, going into this different degrees, and here I am thinking, you know, shout out to I have mad respect for those who study jazz, but to me, in my heart, I was like, well, I also want to study other things, right? And essentially I went on a rampage asking like every professor, like asking for life advice. And my Mr. Nelms and Miss Gonzalez, they felt compelled to refer me to a particular philosophy professor at the time. I don't remember his name, but essentially I'll work it backwards. Mr. Nelms mentioned to me that professor asked him, hey, he kind of freaked me out, because let me go into the story. So I walk into his office, and I just word vomit all the things that I'm asking about life, and how can one tell, what one needs to do, and what if I want to do this, but what does that mean to want to do? So essentially, I was trying to figure out, and I was hoping he could be like, oh, right, I know what you need to study, and your degree is exactly this. Now go forth, and this is your path. And I'm like, all right, yes.
Right.
But instead, I get, you should write your thoughts down every day. I'm like, and then what's else, right? And where that led, so I just did that out of practice and wrote nothing. Essentially, it was like, whatever was going on in the day. Sometimes there's captures of dreams and that were very vivid, and then there's some thoughts, some observations that would come out. but you know, I would go in and out of that practice and of writing, and it ever since the lockdown, my senses screamed that notebook that has been just saying, "Hey, you know this notebook you bought? It's all has music notes and stuff. It looks all kind of cool, whatever. It's blank, just so you know. It's been here for years, and you haven't looked at it, you haven't done it, and you know every time you look at it, I'm like, damn, how could all that rush into my mind when I look at it? So I figured, well, let me just let flows be captured in it, and it's kind of cool. I mean, I'm certainly an amateur writer. I'm not trying to portray, you know, the best or this and that, like you're mentioning, right? It's just like I'm just trying to track. I'm just trying to think more clearly, right?
Right.
Says the one that uses all kinds of words and jumbles them up, and you know.
Right.
But that's why. That's why, and I'm happy that you felt resonance with yourself too.
100%. Yeah, and it is great. Like, just like the stepping stone thing. I've read lyrics that I've written that just never, you know, saw the light of day. Like, you know, maybe 7 years ago, and I saw where I was as a person, you know, and you're able to backtrack and be like, oh yeah, this is how you thought, and this is how, you know. But those were lyrics, and without thinking about it, you know, I'm here trying to write a song, or maybe even capture a thought, or kind of an idea to work on that. But that wasn't my thought. It was really like I was trying to write a song or a poem or something. And looking back at it now, it's like, wow, I left a carving on a stone, you know?
Yeah.
And you're looking back at it as a, you know, as like when Moses takes out his 10 commandments, you know, like on the rocks. It was like that, but you know, obviously different
Of yourself.
Right. And I was just like kind of looking at a history piece, and I was like, whoa, like I evolved, and it's strange. Like, even though sometimes you might doubt yourself and say, maybe I'm not growing or whatever, maybe like you could see where you were, you were just a different person. You could say you were better now or worse now. It doesn't matter. But
Right.
for sure, you shifted, and it's crazy.
Yeah, look, you just made me. It's funny for you to say that. My brain immediately latched onto something that I'm seeing here. Apparently, I wrote, and may I share this thought?
Yeah.
Is that cool, y'all? Is that okay? It was written May 12th, 2020. May 12th, 2020 at 11:23 p.m. So imagine the lateness in the day. What kind of things are circulating? Anyway, at that time, right? Tuesday is what it was. So this is what I wrote. Feels like the witnessing of captured webbings of thoughts stringed together in a form of symbols that thread into each other. And most importantly, the absoluteness of the partaking and the engagement with the always available and always welcoming, awaiting, totally waiting for your willingness. For your willingness to allow yourself into the observation of yourself, fulfilling the writing of this entry. Curious observation. Even the deciding to rewrite, like something at the end there, apparently, that I did. And even but I'm being annoying here. I even put like this arrow and this. But curious observation. Is that weird? What comes to mind when you hear that?
Curious observation.
Mm-hmm.
I just think of someone who's willing to accept anything that is, you know. But if it's true, you're looking for answers. Someone, but not someone who's biased. You know, someone who's really saying like, if it's not what I want, well, let it be. But if it's the truth, then I allow it. You know. And I think it's such a beautiful, like whenever you say that, whenever you brought it up, I've never heard those two words together, like, you know, until you. But whenever you would bring it up, I'm just like, that is a good, like, explanation of what we do in terms of like where we're not gonna go full Republican conservative and be like this whole I'm on the Trump train, and go on this thing, or you're not on the
Mhm.
left side being, exactly like, well, call everything racist or I'm offended or whatever. Like there's people that are boxed in a way, like, and it's just like, dude, like they have this, they're really like their identity is this, and it's very strange, like
Yeah, and it's
where
fair because it's justifiable, especially from whatever they've experienced themselves, and
100%.
from conversations with all kinds of. If I may, before let me preface this thought with this, just from my own experience. I appreciate you sharing that observation. Right, is because me personally, I've certainly been on both sides of that. Oh, Trump is the worst thing ever, and things could be acknowledged, willingly, that this person's a racist, probably racist. Like that was a concern of my mind, and on the other side of the spectrum, where Trump's the best thing ever. Oh my goodness, I can see why they hate him so much and this and that. Yes, you're what's that analogy? A bull in a Chinese store. What is that analogy? I'm totally butchering that. But if you can imagine a a store that has all these beautiful antiques, and I guess a Chinese store. I don't know what the phrase is, but perhaps anyone, if you're interested, bull and Chinese store, something like that. And a bull, of course, they're not delicate. They're going to be causing havoc. And to me, my observation of that was how information traditionally had been distributed, especially judging by how much they used to love him. And, there's a lot of referencing of. And but to me, ironically, at the time, that was the reason why I totally did not like him because of pre-politician life. And now it's like, wait, hold on. And this has been in the developing for years now. Just why do I care to support or not support? And when I have friends who I have a lot of respect for on the left side of the spectrum and the right side of the spectrum, and I'm just listening. What do you see? What do you see? And I recognize that the things that are being seen or justifiable are very much worthy of concern, worthy of to be heard. And there's a lot of things not being heard, and hence the friction. And on top of that, if that wasn't enough, this these devices, I keep ranting about technology because I guess there's something about our generation where we know life without the internet. Absolutely, for sure. The kinds of experiences that is unique to not having it. And now we live in a world, and I'm a teacher. I'm surrounded by kiddos, right? Internet is a normal exposure, a normal access, a normal availability, right? I keep saying the same thing. But exponentially, what does it mean, when it comes to when things get hot? You need to be on this side, and no, you need to be on this side. Now it's like, okay, well, I've recognized that whatever information gets to an eye first will do a good job in solidifying a view. And I find it that say that this is an analogy, this is a terrible analogy, but it kind of gets an idea. Like, imagine, Justin, your family's trying to get a hold of you from afar, right? They want to tell you something valuable. And instead, there's an influence because the means in which the communication occurs is it's not yours, it's not theirs. And perhaps there's an entity in which, and this is just speaking from information standpoint, like, oh, we don't want Justin to know about something. So we're going to tell him first what this about the regarding the information that's about to arrive. So you get that information first. It certainly makes an impact in how we perceive, and it should, because why would it not, right? You're a person that cares, and all of a sudden there's another bit of information that your family's trying to get to you. Bad analogy because it's family, but just to draw a sort of lens.
Well, a good example of that would be I've done jury duty, and so, but I was part of a grand jury. So what we were in charge of was, we were in a table, and they would bring cases to us, and if we wanted to true bill it, no bill it, you know what I mean? Which means that, like, should this case go to court or should they just be fined? So if someone had like whatever ounces of marijuana, like, should it go to court and they get actually tried for it and, get a sentence, or should they just be fined, for having the substance, and that's it, they're on their merry way? Well, there was this case. I'm not going to go into the case, but what I'm just trying to say is that first the prosecutor came in and gave us this whole speech, we were so influenced by the prosecutor first that we were like, okay, this guy's guilty, like 100%. But then the defense attorney comes in, and his role is to kind of flip the whole thing around and be like, no, he's innocent. So I guess that's what you're trying to say is that,
yes, wow.
It's just, yeah. So it's just like a one-sided thing where, yeah, and I guess that's what everyone, and it's so strange, man. This whole Trump thing, it's a big, like, eye-opening thing for us, whether we like him or not. It doesn't matter. The thing is that when you're in a room and you say Trump, whether you like him or not, the room vibe changes.
Yeah.
The vibe of the room is something else.
It's so annoying, man, because look, like I said earlier, like, for me, I used to hate the guy. I used to be like totally in support, but not because of him, but just the observation of how much there is a recognition of a traditional fortitude of a I guess entity, traditional media, watching that dance, watching polls be not fulfilled, perhaps, and there is a very clear difference in both their rallies, and it's like, so to me, it was not even the guy; it was just more like there's just something cool happening, right? So I'm very happy to share that. As far as being informed down to the T, oh no, I mean, look, at the end of how old was I? This was the previous election. I was 26, right? So to me, I'm just trying to figure my life out, and me in particular. And I'm not going to say I was totally not paying attention. I was always listening to information from all sides. But I certainly know I was gravitated towards watching this. I guess I don't know how to explain. Maybe you could help me out here. Two realities that were being realized, and yeah. Train of thought. Sorry, I have to be honest with you. I have a mosca in here, and I'm like, pinche mosca. Can y'all how'd you get in here? Of course you're gonna come in. Yeah, it's like I'm not Mike Pence. I'm not Clinton. I'm just what's going on here.
But circle, man, with what exactly you said in the beginning is how someone was raised, and also, but also something along the lines didn't give them the will to, like, a lot of people claim they're open-minded, but it's very strange. I'm just like, well, can you accept that you're wrong? And can you accept that maybe there is no right side, because it is a side. And
yeah, like I even noticed that. I think that's along the lines of what you made me think about in terms of I started to recognize that within myself, both sides at those particular times. And to me, I was like, well, they don't care about me. I mean, love him or hate him, Trump doesn't care. But I mean, perhaps he does, perhaps he doesn't. But in terms of like the way like my mom and dad would care, like, okay, that right there, that kind of love, that is I honor that, right? It's like the way
It's
the parents love you is incomparable to how any friend could love any other person. I mean,
and
not
that's for
to
certain, and it exists. Yeah,
sorry.
it's not. It's not traveling from miles away. This is literally you
They
were
were your
raised
portal.
on this. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like there's a uniqueness to that kind of love. So it's like, how about that the regard for those who participated in my uh, invitation? How about that respect is a good reference in terms of prioritizing how we. Oh, where'd you go? Where'd you go?
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
There you go.
And how we are willing to be so either for the guy or so against the guy. It's like, how do we get here? Right? I mean, I didn't recognize that we were supposed to feel anyway. Who remembers the days where that was not as present as it is today? It's the present. Oh, well, is it the way the president is being reached to our faces? Technology, right? Because
Right.
technology in this social media is its own space. Let me draw this parallel. This is the thought that came to me, and I'm sure we can all see through it in terms of, okay, if you use GPS every day, you know this feeling. Remember those days where you used to print out the directions? You would have to find a computer and print the directions. Here, take a right, left, this and that. Without that, and if you made a wrong turn, it was a big deal. There was a lot of time wasted. That was one era. Before that, and before that, I didn't drive around using maps. Full disclosure, I grew up into the era of printing, right? I never used maps. And now I'm recognizing perhaps I should get good at using maps, right? Because certainly I'm giving away willingly and happily, by the way, my sense of direction away from my own internal radar. I have it embedded in Laredo because that's where I'm from. But it's interesting, even years ago since I've been there, I still have a sense. San Antonio, love San Antonio, has its own. It has its own. It's a metropolis. It's a big city, man. But yeah, okay. So the analogy is, all of a sudden you can unplug, or anyone that's ever run out of battery and you're driving, and all of a sudden you're like naked in the universe in terms of direction, and how readily available we're ready to lose time because of missing turns, not having the information accessible. And now we combine it because we have such access to the internet. We don't have those lost times, or rather, another way to put it, we don't have those newfound experiences where, I took a wrong turn here, this and that, and we get to alleviate those effects from, say, you don't make it in time for a job or this and that or whatever commitment of arrival, and all of a sudden you were able to receive updates. Hey, there's a traffic jam, this and that, and you were able to adjust accordingly. If you didn't have that, how much time is lost in just that one time across years and now a decade? Now that's a rant. Maybe I welcome you to help me anchor it down. And also I'm distracted by this pinche mosca, man. I'm like, just close your eyes. I don't know how that mosca just got in. What's up?
I understand where you're coming from, man. What's it called? That actually happened to me. I had a show in San Antonio, and it was called the Detox Bar. And so what happened was, long story short, the promoter got like their battery died or something, like on the drive home. So they called me in to go help them, but I'm like at 1% battery. I get to them and I'm seeing if I could help them, but they don't have like a rope, and I'm gonna, I said I'll like, pull them, told them. So, but no one has a rope, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to Walmart. And so I'm on my way, GPS turns off, right? I'm like, shit. And I can't call them. You know, there's none of that. I can't call
You're
them.
lost in the sea.
So I'm lost in the sea. And in San Antonio, this big ass place that like I'm not familiar with. You know, I know only like the major, you know, the major highways and stuff like that. And so so the only thing I can do is rely on people. So I stop at the stripes.
I remember those days clearly. My parents getting off the car. How do I get off this here? And getting the wrong direction even. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Because I asked the lady there and she's just like, I don't know. And she's like, I think that, and she said, I think, which I should have been like, maybe she doesn't know. And she said, I think the closest one is this way. And I don't know what. I went, took a wrong turn. And then, you know, there was like a party outside, like a taquero place or whatever.
Ooh.
And I asked one of the people there, and then they finally told me, like, no, it's on the other side. And finally I went and I got there. It took me like an hour to do the whole thing. And which it would have been maybe like 15 to 20 minutes. So, yeah, like definitely different.
So you know, that's just GPS. So imagine the just access of now what feels like, you know, are we in there in terms of civility, there is raised tensions and it's showing up in our civil discourse and it's kind of cool, right? It's like, okay, I mean, we could just call it what it is. History is being made. History is being witnessed. History is whether anyone recognizes or not, the participation into it, everyone's writing into it. It's called social media and it's a digital fingerprint. Imagine 200 years from now, all that has been written. What an incredible library this is, right? What will the library contain? Is it ours? Or rather, what does it mean to those who see through it? So it's like, well, it only exists through our human lens. It doesn't exist in any animal. So perhaps it's, you know, whatever shall it mean to people, it will reflect. You know, I have a really good friend of mine who is a YouTuber. Shout out to Eddie VR. My goodness. He's figured out a portal that my students, without mentioning, can already recognize and know episodes and can recite rap songs and it's just amazing. I'm like, wow. Was this in terms of access and availability, was that like this was it supposed to happen? I mean, look at Hollywood, right? Hollywood, do you remember the times? Justin, you and I must remember this. Anyone younger than, born before 2000s, you might want to ask somebody who has been here before. You remember those days where, with respects, of course, I'm just making an acknowledgement. I'm trying to be silly here, and I'm not sure if I'm coming across like that. But anyway, remember the days where every month there's a movie, and there was always the talk of the town. What movie are we going to watch today? Oh, what movie's out today in a theater near you? One movie, one situation, one man, one desire. All these. That was the thing that sold going to talk about it. And the preview will come out and people will talk about the preview everywhere you went. That was like a conversation, softball, right? When, I shared that with the kids, and that's not a thing. That's our generational culture in the way we can now recognize as a stone culturally, right? So, why is it that now we don't hear much of Hollywood these days? May it be because the eyeballs that used to be funneled, what's that, bottlenecked into specific people and then that's just actors. We're not even talking about those who produce it, those who make the things, those who edit the things, who write the things, the invisible forces, right? Those eyeballs are now not trapped into that bottleneck of media, entertainment. And once again, I'm so proud of my friend. He's by sheer puro ganas. This guy, it lives it, and it's just incredible to witness how much technology is reflecting a newfound culture of patterns, just as much as we used to long ago feel with GPS and travel. And now we have GPS, and perhaps what can we draw as parallels of GPS culturally? Perhaps we're looking at it.
Right.
Is that a weird thought?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
It's all over the place.
it's a good thought. It's like looking back of what we know 200 years from now. I mean, from then, like when we look back, like all we can do is really just see what we've known in textbooks, and like, but I'm sure that's going to be the same 200 years from now. They're going to, or I mean, maybe they'll actually be able to feel it with what they learn, right? Like they could actually fucking time travel or get a simulation. But
right. So it's like this is a time traveling situation. We look through any channel, and you just look, but it's on the backwards. But you can feel. Like I shared something. Something came on my Facebook. It was, I think, it was a 10-year-old memory, and I was like, "Oh, I love that. I'm going to share this one." And ironically, I'll say it like this: it was promoting in San Marcos a salsa club, and I was playing in it with the school. And one of I guess the phrase that particular spot, the mark, I think it was, I'm butchering this, I don't remember, but it was something like, live your life. Okay, maybe that was too. The wording was better than what I just said, but it was along those lines, a better version. And essentially, watching how I've been looking forward to this observation since everything locked down. Like, how long will we be in quarantine? A year? How would that affect our culture and the way we view these older pictures that are just we've taken for granted? Not to speak ill on anyone, just the nature of a lockdown, right? And the nature of quarantine, the nature of this new era. Looking back at it, the nostalgia of being able to share tight spaces, dancing. No, and this is my point. This is what I was trying to figure out. There's no smell of politics. There's no smell of what side are you on, or who do you? I mean, perhaps there are some, but the likes of that we have effectively been thrusted into. I wonder if is it really who's in the White House and or the manner in which we receive information. And of course, I think it's because he's such a polarizing figure. He offers so much beautiful content for both sides. Yes, pro and anti, and the same thing on the other sides. It's like, oh wow, it's beautiful content that immediately, rapidly pulls us apart out of just character, right? And on top of that, I wish we could just receive information clearly with, it's easy to just say and wish, right? With no bias, right? But there's always going to be. So ultimately, it's like, aside from bias, everything either pulls towards the truth or pulls away from the truth. And at least there's a focal point. So it's like, okay, well, where is that? How can we, perhaps I'm trying to do good, and I might find myself on this side of the spectrum and recognize maybe it's a little bit more of a here, or vice versa. I'm trying to do good, so I'm going to go all the way on this side of the spectrum and recognize maybe maybe it's somewhere over here. Where's the truth? Where is it? Where is it? And maybe it's like driving, right? I heard this analogy. You don't just drive holding the steering wheel. There's a constant left and right, left and right that shows
Yeah.
up in the driver's seat. That also is a parallel that shows up in the driver's seat of our mind.
Wow. Yeah,
That
maybe
was funny.
it's a pendulum swing, maybe we're kind of flowing with it because the pendulum swings. And as when it went right now, I'm sure it's probably swinging to the right somehow. And it's a lot of people that are centered, like you and I, where we kind of accept both sides because we understand that, the upbringing, maybe right now you and I kind of, swing right with still some left values, but like,
And even then, it's like,
there's
to me, it's like I don't even know what that means when an observation of swinging right, because from one ear it could mean, oh, so that must mean you're a racist. And like, well,
right. That's so extreme. It's yeah.
wait, what?
Yeah.
And then another eye will receive that as like, okay, you have, okay, right on. So it's like a branch. It could be right on what? On conservative values or less government. It's like, that's a good question. When I hear, and so we can go into that conversation, what the perceptions of right is. At least to me, I see right as there happens to be a hub of conservative values. Those who hold those it's like their hub, right? And then there's those who like the Ron Pauls, which I would say when I first listened to his speeches, especially at the time in 2012, I didn't understand a lot of things that other people were talking about. I was a kid, right? But specifically, Ron Paul resonated with me with the questioning of, with our foreign policy. Like, yeah, we've been out here for a long time, and I thought Afghanistan was the enemy, or Iraq
Right.
was the enemy, or why is there no more talks about, how do I say, weapons of mass destruction? That was like the branded name. The branded. I even said it in school, like weapons of mass destruction. And then like it stuck, and recognizing that a lot of the footage that was justifying movement into Iraq were footage from 1992, from the first Gulf War. So it was like, oh wow, isn't that a big deal? So for me as a kid, foreign policy has always just interested me, like just what's going on over there. And the way he spoke about towards it, I would say now, I don't agree to the 2012 me viewing the election like, yeah, we should bring all the troops, and we need to bring all our bases. We have over, I don't know, almost 300 bases. I don't know what the numbers are.
Guilty of that. Yeah.
But it's like, oh, that's true. Bring them all home. We should, isolate this and that. But what does that mean? I don't know. So I allowed myself to detach from a lot of the initial thoughts that I had, which even thoughts that I have today, I'm happy to detach. I just want to see what comes out. So conservative values and less government. There you go. So Ron Paul, the speaking of the decreasing of the reach of a government entity sounded appealing, especially his conversations on, what's the role of, we need to audit the Fed. That was like a brand that he coined, audit the Fed. And that's true. Why don't we just we should, this is our country. We live in this country, right? We the people, right? Ought we know as a people, maybe I won't read it all, but others who want to read it all, can they be allowed to read every ounce of what the expenditures are of our Federal Reserve? Yeah. There's a resistance to that idea. Why? Ooh, I want to know why. So the reach of government to me has been interesting. And of course, on the left side of the spectrum, and that part of me says, of course you got to have that. I mean, look at schools. I mean, how else are kids going to be educated, especially if they don't have the money? Easy for anyone to say gone with the schools when they have all the money or they have a lot of money. And I'm not going to go and say that they have all the money, but certainly there is wealth where the thought of, well, school is not an immediate financial like they could just pay for tutoring, or they could pay for a particular specific school.
Right.
But what about those who don't have access to that? And so I see that side of the spectrum too, and especially because I am an educator in that field myself, and I see it and I participate in it. So I see value in that. So it's like, okay, well, how about I'm okay with recognizing I don't know how it works. So whenever I would find myself like tied into, conservative thoughts, I'm like, well, I don't even know what all these other things mean anyway. So why am I going to totally commit? And on the other side of the spectrum, well, how could you support this and that? And how about, can we put a pause? Let me collect my thoughts. I'll put a pause there. I know I'm renting a thought there, but it was along the lines of what you're saying, right, left,
Yeah.
what is right anyway? And what is
Right.
what is left anyway? And center, I think, is that intersection of ebbs and flows, and everything trails away from it. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it makes sense, man. I think every curious observer of our generation is there, exactly where you're at. I think we believe in traditional values and in the fact, but not to the extreme. Like there is some of us that are just like, but we also grew up with the younger generation. Like we just didn't only listen to our parents. We also, the people who raised us were also our friends. And I think I know that our parents worked a lot. Mother and fathers were working, so who were the only like giving us advice and stuff was either our housekeepers or what do you say, our neighbors, our friends. They would come over and we were getting like youth like dreams and making like clubhouses, whatever it may be. We enjoyed that like kind of irresponsibility,
That
selfishness,
the window of,
exactly what you were about to say. Like you were gonna say something about, like, the window of like liberty, man, like or
yes,
just free.
Ida?
And I feel like we don't want the restraint of like also what Republicans want, like as in, oh well, you shouldn't do this and whatever. And so I feel like that's why we fall in this, like, well, I don't want to just like belong to one place when my heart tells me no. And then I also don't want to belong to this place when my heart tells me that's wrong, So I feel like that's why we're stuck in like, maybe I got to step back and kind of like really think for myself what I feel is right, what I go with my gut.
Right.
And
because ultimately, I appreciate you mentioning that, because just an observation of conservative values in terms of what we've seen, in the past, of like, if, what is it? I'm not sure if this is true or not, but that apparently that it's occurred where, like, if someone thinks certain thoughts, say in sexual preference, that there would be like therapy to get that out of them. And it's like, wow, that's
exactly thinking about that right now.
So, and I watched that parallel with someone who happens to think different thoughts politically. And like, for example, I have respects for this individual, and I will share that at a poetry slam, there was what was heard was, you know, there's no room for racists. There's no room for them to be able to speak. And to me, hearing that, like, well, whoa. I mean, I feel you. Like, I feel you, because who wants to hear a racist, you know, spewing ignorance? And okay,
Right.
I feel that. Okay. Now, who gets to decide who's a racist? Well, listen to them. Well, shall they be heard? Perhaps they're confused. Perhaps they need. It's almost like maybe a conversation. Well, what's that one black man that converted over 200
I love that.
Ku Klux Klan? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I
I forgot his name. Oh my, his story. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking right at this very moment, and I am ashamed of myself.
Said, Daryl, do not fool with Roger Kelly. He will kill you. How can you hate me when you don't even know me? I began seeking out members and leaders of the Ku Klux Klan.
I'm not saying ship them back to Africa, although that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Ku Klux Klan, an unashamedly extreme right-wing sect with one fanatical aim, white supremacy.
His secretary set up an interview with Roger Kelly, but didn't tell him Davis was black.
He comes in, a handgun in his holster. This is an ambush. My mind is racing 100 miles an hour. My eyes locked with Roger Kelly's eyes. I feared for my life. Mr. Kelly and I would continue our conversations, even after my book came out. Over time, that cement that he talked about, that held his ideas together in his mind, began to get cracks in it. He began questioning some of his thinking based upon the conversations that he had with me. And then over more time, that cement crumbled and fell apart. And then a few years back, guess what? Roger Kelly quit the Ku Klux Klan.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white men. Sometimes we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I'll respect him to sit down and listen to him.
Do you think that you had something to do with Roger Kelly leaving the Klan?
Oh, I know I did. It was an exchange of information that made him rethink his ideology. And when Roger Kelly quit the Klan, he gave me his robe and hood. He and I became the best of friends. All of this came through conversation, through talking. When I first began interviewing Klan members, they felt I was inferior. I had nothing to offer in terms of my opinion. But then over time, as the relationship develops, slowly but surely they began asking me questions. That was the first clue that the tide was turning. Oh, all of a sudden, my opinion matters. Let's see where this is going. As a result, active Klan members have renounced that ideology. And in doing so, they turn over their badge of honor, their uniforms, their swastika flags. So thank you. All right, my friend.
Somebody violated their oath.
And so they had a turnaround.
Well, my little girl came a long way. You know, no thanks to her father and I. We really did our best to destroy our kids. And I do believe God does work through people, other human beings, and he most certainly uses Daryl Davis as an instrument because that man has touched a lot of lives.
How many members of the KKK have you stopped being members?
Directly, between 40 and 60 people. Indirectly, over 200. People tend to feel comfortable around things with which they're familiar. And sometimes they may become xenophobic or develop a fear of things that are different. That fear can be overcome. If they go beyond that fear and develop a hatred, that's harder to overcome. We're not so naive as to think that everybody is going to change. No. There will be people who will go to their graves being hateful, violent, and racist. But if somebody is willing to sit down and talk with you, there's an opportunity to plant a seed.
But he converted over 200 Ku Klux Klan members by having conversations with them. So imagine having a conversation with someone that is deemed with our perceptions as races and having conversation with them so that it could, maybe you could be the reason why that it isn't the case anymore.
Right.
But instead, we need to eradicate them. We need to not, well, perhaps some people feel that way. Just from what I've heard from different people, there's a willingness to shut people down. Uh, there's a willingness to punch a Nazi. I'm like, whoa.
Right.
Like the way, I guess I'm drawing a parallel with conservatives, the way they've perceived with, uh, oh, you happen to like the same sex or same gender or whatever. So it's like, oh, is that a weird
Right, right,
parallel?
right.
I'm not sure if I'm drawing it clearly. It
You're
was more
right,
clear in
man.
my head, and I
No,
would say
what you're
I
trying to
improvise
do is
into it.
that box. Yeah, that box that we were talking about, like that the box set, for someone to think a certain way, and then like over here, it's like if you're part of this side, you're supposed to think this way, and yeah, like most conservatives have this like gay is wrong, and then it's simple, right? Like, and it's just like because of like religious values and all that stuff. And then on this side, it's just kind of like we need to have freedom and liberty, and it's kind of no one should be judging us, and it's kind of to the extreme where it's just like, well, you are also the left is putting restraints on people, and so is the what you're talking about, the extremes of saying like I'm putting restraints on you. You cannot go for another man, or you as a woman cannot go for another woman.
Mhm.
It's that extreme. Like there's restraints. It's funny. I don't know. I'm imaging like that cliche ankle handcuff thing. With the ball, and
Yeah,
it's just like you wear these. To both sides are saying that to each other, and it's very strange, man.
interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
I
just
think.
to,
Go on.
I was gonna say, I want you to finish that thought, but uh, after that, I have a question for you. But I want with that, so that we got the ball, we got the chain on the ankle. That you're observing
Yeah,
that there is an abstract, but noticing of a presence of something like that, in in that has shown up from conservatives onto populations of people, and now is being observed with those on the left side of the spectrum, with those who happen to have thoughts and views, maybe even all the way through, on the right side, or at least just a resemblance towards the right, not necessarily all the way. That there's a restraining of that. Is that what you're saying?
right. Yeah, and it's good that you said that they are like kind of like parallels, because I do imagine both sides saying we're this, like, and it's kind of like, but I want to believe in what I want to believe,
Right.
and I'm not affecting you in any way. Both of them are saying the exact same thing. Um, I mean, if it's not their children, right? But if it's just some other individual, they should believe what they want to believe, but it should be held amongst their circle or whatever. Because once you start trying to be the police of whatever you're trying to do it, that's the problem, where it's just like, well, why is there this outside law of culture? It's very strange.
Right. Well, man, I appreciate your time. Let's do this again. Anyone watching today, especially in through the conversation into this very moment, we invite you to hit that subscribe button. There's a little notification bell that pops up to let you know that, hey, there's another exploration of thought. You will certainly get that notification. And of course, what helps cast the net of eyeballs so to welcome further feedback, that button that looks like this, you're welcome to smash like that, right? Smash, 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 smash. Ah. And so with a concluding thought, and also questions or even feedback on things talked about, I especially welcome okay, Ricky, what are you talking about? Like, some of the rants that I was trying to anchor. I welcome that too. Finishing a question, Justin White. Before I ask you this questions, where can my friends, where can our friends, anyone watching, where can they find you and your thoughts?
Usually, for some odd reason, I use Facebook a lot on my personal account, but we do have Dos Leones, when it comes to music and stuff like that. That's where I'm going to be at. And then kind of in the future, that's where I'm going to be posting a lot because, I'm going to have the music room in the back. But yeah, Facebook, you message me on IM, dude. I don't mind. Like, I love conversations. It's very great. Just don't come at me with like a one-sided, your truth thing. I want the whole truth, and
Right. Well,
it's something that I can kind of have a conversation with anybody.
Welcome. Yeah, you welcome happily. Yeah. Well, that ties into this question that I want to ask you, Justin. How can we speak towards that, what you just said, in terms of what helps you, Justin, whenever you find yourself in like gravitating to a side? How do you check yourself, and how perhaps can we encourage that amongst ourselves?
I love that question, dude, because that is something that I have conflict with a lot, and it's a matter of that we're just trying to perfect ourselves, But the one thing I think about, because I found myself kind of recent, maybe like a month, 2 months, maybe, kind of being like, whoa, like, remember, above all this, like, we're all just looking for one answer, like, because we want to be so quick on everything. And I think the one answer on both sides is all we're looking for. If we are really looking for one answer, and all I can think of, because I've been thinking about that, like, if we are looking for one answer to all this, how is it that we can come together and just find peace? And I would just think that the word, I mentioned it on another person's show, is love, man. It's like something that we can just accept each other and love above all, like, you kind of have to get out of your bubble and just be like, let me love this person, because it's if I'm just gonna start a war if I just throw my my I just throw up on someone.
Yeah, get it, man, I see what you did there, get it.
Right. Yeah, exactly, and
which I received some.
When you can receive and just step back and love someone, give them that virtual hug with your mind. I think things get accomplished without, you don't have to agree with them, right? You just have to just kind of be like, oh, I see where they're coming from, and that's it. You don't have to, like, give them the benefit of siding with them and kind of be a yes man. You just have to be like, they were probably raised in this way, and like you said earlier, the racist thing or whatever, it's just a matter of conversation and showing love, like, and you'll find a middle ground somehow. If it's not politics, it might be the most random thing. It might be culinary arts or whatever it may be.
A human thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, thank you, Justin, for your time. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to follow his thoughts, his flows, his music, Dos Leones. And yes, have a great day. Shall observations be found curiously?